You're so much, Emma.
She's extra.
Everyone in here is extra.
Everyone in here is extra.
Did you call it the extra theatre?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Conor McGinley.
Woo! Sarah J.
Art
Davison.
and comedy fame.
Art and comedy.
Art and comedy? You're like a proper artiste.
Yeah, and both take away from one another. Do you know what I mean? People don't like it in the art world when you try and sort of merge comedy in.
Well, you're like, you do like a gallery showing, but you're going to have like 5 minutes just at the start to...
Well, I did with my last gallery show. I did a performance art, and it was me doing live painting, but I was naked. And then when people came in, and I was in high heels, and people came in and were like, oh! And then I started talking to them. Because normally when someone does performance art, they do performance and everyone stands about and goes... And I started doing that, and people were like, oh, okay, yeah, he's painting. And I would let them watch me for a while, and then I'd turn around and just start talking to them. And they go, because that's... You've broken the fourth wall for some reason.
They thought they thought you didn't know they were there.
They thought we've come to see the spectacle, but you're the spectacle. I have done this so I can watch your face when I turn round.
This is mainly for me.
Yes, yeah.
Well, it isn't art, just really.
Yeah.
At least we've got the decency to admit it.
Yeah.
All these
I
people
do comedy and art
think
for
they're
me.
saving society with their pictures.
Yeah, nonsense. Like, I didn't do any... Like, I've always painted and drawn. I, always, had sketchbooks. And I didn't do any gallery... When did I do my first... I think I did my first gallery exhibition 2018. And it got to the... Yeah, about then. It got to the stage maybe a little before that. And it was that cafe.
Yeah,
Coon
I
Cafe.
remember that.
Yeah, I did one there. Maybe I did something small... Before that one may be the first one, or Art Cetera. I did a small one in Art Cetera or something. But it was literally because at that stage I had a bedroom and a storage room that are just filled full of canvases and paintings and different things, to the point where I was painting over other canvases because I was like, I don't have room to store these. I just burnt a load at one stage. Shit. I don't have. And
I'm getting to that point now a wee bit as well. I need to, because I'm moving and I've got all this art shit and I've got all these canvases I've painted and I have nowhere to put it in the other house.
Yeah, you're best finding a studio and then just putting them up on display. And then people come in, some people actually go, I'd like to buy that. For what? To put in my house. Why? What are you going to do with this? Yeah, what are you going to do with it? What are you about?
What do you like? What do you want?
And then you're like, oh, perhaps I could be on Artiste.
Oh, well. Talking about comedy.
Comedy.
I think you were at my first ever gig.
Where was that?
In the Pav.
Oh, really?
I think it was either you maybe were probably there, but I think Paddy McDonald was emceeing.
Right, yeah.
And I think you were there, Alan Irwin, back in the day.
Sounds likely. Yeah, I remember some of your early gigs. I remember being like, yeah, she's very good. Because we did that horrendous gig in Portaferry.
That's what it was, Portaferry.
Do you remember that? Lee Stirrup organised those gigs, and we kept doing them. And
that was back in the day, though, because I always have this conversation, because comedy's there's a lot of places where you can do stand-up now, quite well, like in Belfast, there's not just the Empire and Lavery's, there's other places. The Pav's very good now, and Black Box and Accidental, of course. But back when we started, which is 12 years ago, you're in a function room with about 15 people who are just getting a comedy show.
Yeah. Whether they want it or not. And there were those gigs where a microphone was put down and people would go to the pub for so many reasons. People go to the pub to tell their friend of 40 years that they've got stage 4 cancer, and they're like, we said we were going to go see the vineyards in America or whatever. I don't think I'm going to make it. And then suddenly a microphone is put down and you come on and you're like, whoa! Don't you hate it when you can smell your own dick? And people are like, what the fuck is this? And you're like, here, mate, What's he crying for? It's not that bad. Here, you love this one. It's like people...
Also, that is the thing. Also, we didn't know what we were doing to her either. We weren't great comedians at the time.
Speak for yourself. I was okay.
You were okay.
I had fun. Well, I'd done it in Manchester where it was really good fun. And then I'd done an Edinburgh show before I came here.
Oh, we see that. That explains it.
Yeah. And what happened was I came here and there wasn't much of a scene, so I set up my own gig in Voodoo Bar.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Which was a gong show. And I was like, God, promoting a gig is really hard. And I did that 3 times. And then Magic George, and I think Alan was running the PAV at that stage. And they said, do you want to be an MC at the PAV? And I said, that's all I want. I don't ever want to promote. I don't want to. I just want to turn up and do comedy and then be able to leave and not have to like take tickets or deal with people complaining about things not being right or work a microphone.
Or try and find the comedians because you're never able to find them. They never come on time.
Yeah. One comedian was called Morgan Hurst and he was booked for the Gong Show, and then I was like messaging him, Gong Show tomorrow, he's still on for it, and he's like, I've given up comedy. I was like, right, fair enough. And then he reappears and he's like, I'm actually called Fraser Rob. Like, what?
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I forgot there was
Morgan
just
Hurst.
some guy called Morgan Hurst. I never really met Morgan Hurst.
I drove to Derry with him. All the way to Derry and back.
With Morgan
Hurst being like, Morgan, you're Morgan Hurst. To this day, I still see him and go, oh yeah, Fraser Rob.
I didn't know Fraser was Morgan Hurst.
You haven't, like, and he hasn't made a substantial change in his life, like becoming trans or being trans. He's not entitled to a new name because he still looks like Morgan Hurst to me. He hasn't,
I'm just going to be another middle-aged man.
New identity. Like, he's just revealed that he's been using a Kaiser Soze style fake name and that I'm the fucking sucker. I suppose I feel like an idiot for being like, oh, why didn't... Do you know who else did that to me? Magic George.
Oh, because he's Michael Quinn?
Yeah! And do you know how he... Yeah! We were talking, right, about, game shows. And I was like Irish game shows. You've seen down south, they've got Winning Streak, right? So you can get a lotto ticket and you can get on it. And then they will just give you money.
Yeah.
They'll be like, so Sarah... point at the wall and you'll go like that and they'll go, you've won a new Toyota, or you can have the cash equivalent, and you of course will go, I'll have the cash equivalent, I'm putting it towards the conservatory, because that is every Irish person's
one of the
dream.
front of the house
You want a glass house that's too hot in the summer and too cold in the winter on the side of your house. You want that, like...
For all the other neighbours to know I can have one, and then I was starting it like that.
That is the dream.
She's got a conservatory.
I've arrived! And me and George were talking about that, and I said, but like English game shows, you have to be a master at something.
Yeah.
And then like you win 50p. Like you win 50p
it's just
or a
shitty
trophy. Yeah, a terrible trophy. Like
glass one.
Yeah, it's not got like a ruby in it. It's just like a glass
big
trophy.
Plate. We love a big plate.
And I was like, they're so hard. Like, and he went, I was on Countdown. And I went, you were on Countdown?
Yeah.
And he showed me the video of it, and they were like, and over to Michael. And I was like, who is Michael? Why is the man on Countdown calling you Michael instead of Magic George?
He wasn't... And I christen you Magic. George.
Yes.
Sir Firehorse.
Sir Firehorse. Sir Magical Firehorse. Yeah. I was just like...
I know, but those young'un comedians, that's what I'm saying, those young'un comedians don't know they're born.
They don't.
They don't know they're born. They get these nice gigs in bars and theatres. They never played Ballywalter fucking Bowls Club, did they?
Whoa. Those people were
That was a
blown
gig.
away, weren't they?
That was a gig.
Yeah. When I came on stage and they were like, oh, he has an English accent. We seem to like that. And it's like, he's also a Republican. We don't like that. We don't really know how we feel about this. 4 to 5 very old people and 4 to 5 14-year-olds. Wasn't that the sort of crowd we had?
Yeah, I think it was a fundraiser as well.
Yeah, but you see, that's what that promoter used to say.
Everything was a fundraiser.
Everything was a fundraiser. And he did one in the Pavilion Bar. He got the Pavilion Bar to give the stage because they have for years been like, if you want to put a gig on, we'll give you the stage. And if you've got a charity, you can have it for free. Like, and they've always been very accommodating. So he went, I've got a charity, I'm going to do a comedy gig. And I think maybe you did this one as well. And I was meant to MC it. And I'm there. And the comedy gig is for people the charity is for people who have lost a child.
Yes.
And we're raising money to get them some kind of memory box.
R.I.P.
Yeah. For the child that they have miscarried or something. And so, like, I get the kind of, like, comic relief setup where you do the sad bit, then you have some comedians, and then you do the sad bit, and you go, look, we're going to be serious now for a minute. Let's raise some money. No. He was like, right, so tell us what the charity is. And the woman comes up and she says what the charity is about. I'm like, thank you very much, Barbara. She goes and sits down. I go, right, so it's all for a good cause. Let's have a great night of comedy. And I bring on the first act. And then, as I'm going on stage to go up and bring on the second act, he goes, and it's just Samantha between her. And what? There's another woman between this act. And I was like, well, we'll leave her till the end, till the break. And he's like, no, there's one between every act. So there would be a comedian, and then there would be a woman come up and tell a
horrible story,
horrifically descriptive story about how she had lost her child. And then someone was meant to come back and be like, what's the deal with peanut butter?
Hey!
Is it
Jesus gay?
Well, it's just one of those nights where you're like, oh, Christ.
So, long of the short is some things don't work with comedy.
Yeah, some things don't work.
Or you can do it, but you don't really need the spokesperson in between each act.
Yeah, like you do it for a good cause. You can do it for a sad cause or a hard cause. You can do a gig for like raising money for something that's really, really dark, and you have to address it. So you get up and you go,
oh yeah, I think
we're all here to address.
You can do comedy that's about a specific thing that's quite hard or something like death or something like that. As long as everyone there, good in the audience, is on board with what's happening. Yeah. No one can come into this and be like, this is a bit fucking off. Yeah.
And you can't tonally change like that either way. You're all like, bit of because the comedians didn't even know. They didn't even know, like, when they turned up, like, he'd given, he'd said it was a children's charity. So a lot of people who were booked for that night were like, what? And then you were hearing these stories that these women were telling, and like, this is, like, really personal, and we're having pints here, and I don't know that they know that this is there wasn't enough levity to it. It wasn't fun. It was not.
No.
A lot of those gigs weren't fun.
Another one we did of the least syrup, I remember this one, was, remember we were booked to entertain a wedding?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, was it a wedding or was it was in a rugby club or something like that?
It was a wedding. It was the upstairs of a bar in Newtonards.
That's right.
Sorry, I'm bringing all this back.
That's right. But the groom played rugby, and a load of them were rugby heads and stuff. And we turned up, and we were there at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and people were all still sort of sensible enough. Yeah. And we went.
I think they were just after having their dinner.
Yeah, and we went, so we'll just go on now. Would be the time to do it. And he went, no, we're going to leave it a little bit. And then 2 hours later, he came and went, right, we're ready to do the stand-up. And by that stage, they were wrote off.
It was terrible.
They were so wrote off. They did not want to hear, like, anything from
us. I think we were all booked, to do the 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think we probably did 5 each.
Yeah. Did you start singing at one stage?
I think I was just singing something. I just started singing.
I think you started singing a song, and they were like, hey, a song! That's what we want.
I started singing Adele because nobody was listening to me.
Yeah. And that went down really well.
I just started singing, and then they all looked at me, and I was like, so guys. Yeah.
That was a nightmare. Do you want to play a game?
What? Okay.
Right.
Oh, God.
When I was a kid, my dad and I used to play a game when, do you know what else I got? I thought you were going to have the green screen. So I got a morph suit. I know, look. I was going to wear this, and then You could have interviewed the Invisible Man.
Oh, mate.
I know. I should have taken my shoes off. Oh, God. I have to take my shoes off. God.
Quick.
You have to take this. You could have, right? And then...
If we get you in, maybe if we can maybe green screen something onto you.
Oh, wow. You could, no lens. I thought we could do like pure, 60s Invisible Man where it's just the sunglasses going up and down. Yeah, well, you could just...
We could maybe make you invisible. We'll see.
Oh.
We'll see what we can do here. There we go.
Why didn't you put Liam Neeson in where I am? And then you can make it look like...
What do we have? Hold on, here we'll get you.
Oh, but that's not the game.
Oh, okay. You in?
Yeah, it's pretty breathable, actually.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we can do with this.
Woo! Oh, I've no fingers! Debilitating! Here, wait, I've got something better than the morph suit, though. The morph suit is great. Right.
Although I might wear these because these are cool shit.
Yeah, get those on.
Okay. Holy
Okay.
fuck. What's this?
So,
I'm terrified right now.
these are sweeties, right? You have to eat one of these and pretend that you're enjoying it more than anything. I mean, the colours are arbitrary. I would pick any old. So, you just got to chin. And pretend that the nicest thing. Me and my dad used to do this with lemons. We used to eat a lemon and then pretend that it was really nice.
Oh!
Delicious, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like soap. And I like soap.
Yeah, I can tell by the way your eyes are watering.
Well, since we're here,
Yeah.
you're doing a show in the Accidental.
1st of November.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us about that, Connor? Well, I eat this delicious sweet.
You can have another one if you want. Yeah, I'm going to do a show and I'm going to put the art on.
Yeah.
People can come see the fetish art that I've been painting for 7 years. I've gone around mainly Ireland, but I've also places in Europe, America, and I've met people in the fetish community. And initially they started supplying photographs of themselves, but then I started taking some photographs as well. People invited me to watch their fetishes. And I've done a series of paintings about it. And now I'm going to do a show about the wider subject of identity, which is something I suppose I think a lot about.
Yeah, because you're a, with the greatest respect as I am as well, a mutt.
A mutt. Yes. Yes.
Mutts are the best breeds.
Yes.
Healthy.
Absolutely.
That's what I call myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we live in a very identity-driven time. Like podcasts. Podcasts are a massive form of like promoting your identity. People go and see comedians now. Generally, I don't do any podcasts. I'm not going to do my own one. I haven't been invited to do anyone else's, so that would be why. But no, I did. I did someone else's. I can't remember who it was. I did someone's once.
You just broke in and did it.
I just did it, just crept in. But I'd like to do an analog one. I'd like to do an analog podcast where I just record myself and then send people out tapes. Remember, like Netflix, you used to send it out and then you could send it back.
Do you know what? I think that's a great niche. I think you could do it. You could sell it on the site.
Yeah. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? If you had to send away for my podcast. And
McGinley
tape. Cassette. Yeah. And it could be me reading classical stories, but not out loud. Just the sound of me turning the pages, Today McGinley reads A Tale of Two Cities. Look.
Once you get the coating off, these are quite nice.
All right, aren't they?
Yeah.
Me and my dad used to do it with lemon juice. You get a thing of lemon juice or a lemon, and you bite into it and munch through it, and then you'd have to talk about how brilliant it tasted.
It's quite nice. So what, to be fair,
They bring layers. They get sweet again.
It's sour, but I'm not an anti-sour person.
No, I like sour.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so it was a lot, but it was okay.
Have you had sour beer? Mango sour beer?
No.
Oh, it's brilliant. You can get it in like Tesco's or some, it's like some company called, I think it's like Vault City. It's called Triple Mango Sour Beer. And you pour it and it looks like a glass of juice. It looks like a glass of mango juice. And it is so sour and so brilliant.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
Because I like that, like the Spanish cider. That's kind of like lemon beer.
Yeah.
It tastes more like beer than a cider, and it's very lemony.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. Well, anyways, that's not comedy. Just beer recommendations for everyone.
You could have a beer podcast.
Beer, you could have a beer. That's a good
You
one.
should do a beer podcast.
Should I?
Yeah.
So I don't know that much about beer. I only drink Guinness.
But you don't need, that's the thing. That's why it's like, podcast, and I have to take it out because I will choke. This will be, your highest rated podcast will be watching me die here in the basement of an accident. Did he choke on a slate? I think he had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack, but he died doing what he loved.
Connor died doing what he loved, stuffing sweets
Talking
into
shit.
his face and ranting. Yeah. Not talking with his mouth full. He died doing what he loved. Yeah. Yeah, you could, but that like a podcast is like a way of selling who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think that's my issue with them. I don't know who I am yet.
Yeah.
I'm 35, but I've still not quite got there yet.
But I don't think you need to flush that out. It's like, because people, like, I find them a bit disappointing sometimes. Like, you know, when you watch, like, a comedian, you're like, oh, he's really funny, or she's really funny, or they're really funny. And then you go and you're like, oh, they're going to be on a podcast. And then you go and you watch the podcast, and it's 2.5 hours of them just doing nothing, talking about, like, oh, yeah, and then I lived here, and then I moved there, and then I had a dog, and then, like, I was on the road too much, so I shot the dog, or whatever. And you're like, this is just, none of this is amusing, like, yeah, or whatever, but...
Nobody's eating fucking sour sweets.
No one's eating sour sweets. But people get to know who they are, and it's like the difference between comedy now and comedy, like, 10 years ago was... When people went to see someone 10 years ago, maybe they'd seen them do a little thing on TV, or maybe they'd seen them do a little skit on the internet. But now, because they've seen them chat shit on podcasts and be like, I like fags and beer. People are like, he likes fags and beer, like my mates. You're like, everyone's mates like fags and beer. And now you're personable. Now you're someone where it's like, you're not just going to see a comedian, you're going to see someone you feel more connected to. There's a term that people, you know, feel about pop stars. That's why musicians and pop stars
like
don't
parasocial?
Parasocial. That's exactly what it is. You know the word. You know the word. Oh my God.
Up the dyslexics, you.
Woo!
Woo!
Parasocial is exactly what it is. We are trying to cultivate a parasocial relationship with audience members where you want them to feel like they are, you know, connected to you and they know you, hopefully to the stage where you're just in the street and they're like, oh my God, I love you so much. And you're like, don't talk to me, scum!
No! I do find, like, especially, like, doing, like, stand-up comedy, that it works best, and people always talk about, like, you need to rehearse your stuff, that it works best when it's not rehearsed. I think even if you can make it sound like it isn't, because I think audiences love to think that they're the first person hearing it.
I think that's the magic trick with comedy, is making people feel like they're the, like, this is for you, and only you. Yeah. Like, so this is the first time I'm doing an hour on the 1st of November since 2009 when I did my comedy show in Edinburgh. Because then I went and had a child. And that's been way more fun, honestly. Woo! Yeah, just like The Lion King, which is how I used to have to walk into women's bathrooms as a single father. With,
It's okay. I've got a
I
child.
have a child.
I have a child. I have a child.
They put the bum cleaning area in here, so that is why I'm here. Yeah, but yeah, we're trying to manufacture that parasocial relationship.
You were saying you started when you were in England and you'd done Edinburgh stuff like that. Why did you start doing stand-up comedy?
Just love performing and having the crack. It was really good fun. I always loved comedy.
Yeah.
I think I loved comedy, and I loved acting and things like that, and being like, you know, as a kid, like in London, in an Irish family, when you'd have parties, people would do a bit. It was the thing, like my parents, you know, someone would do a song and they'd read a poem. I would put on my Batman costume and dance. I'd do a dance in the Batman costume, and that would be like my bit. So I think, you know, my family were always kind of like, love to perform, love to have fun. And then when I was 13, I nearly died. I had appendicitis operation, right? And they left half of the appendix in there.
Fuck.
And then that rotted and caused an abscess.
Oh, no.
And then I had to have 6 operations and lots of morphine and stuff. And I was in the hospital for weeks and weeks. And I was given the phone one day, you know, the phone in, big phone, I think. And I was allowed to talk to the boys back at school. I talked to my mate Nick, and he went, "Oh, they did an assembly about you." And I went, "Yeah." And they went, "You're going to die." And I went, "What?" They were like, "Yeah, they did an assembly about how you are going to die. Like, have they got you to write your will or anything?" And I was like, "No, they haven't. Who's going to get all my Ghostbuster toys?" You know? And I was just like, I'm going to die. And then I'm in hospital, just like with my morphine clicker, being like, actually, this isn't going well. Because my mum and stuff would be like, things are fine.
Let a wee candle for you.
I didn't realise that behind the whole time. But I did come very close to death in that. And something changed. All the morphine and all of that, something really changed. And when I came out of that, I definitely had a desire to do things that spiked my adrenaline more.
To live!
To live!
To live!
To live!
Nobody's getting my Ghostbusters toys.
Nobody!
Not yet. I'm not ready to go.
And that was like, that's when I got into graffiti as well. I was on a bus, and this girl walked up and she had a black marker and she drew a picture of a fanny on the roof of the bus and wrote, "This is my fanny," next to it. And I was just like, whoa.
I'm so happy
that is art.
Yeah, I'm so happy to know that someone was out there putting fannies on things.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sick of seeing the cock and balls.
Yeah. And this was like, this to me was revolutionary, that this girl just walked up, drew a fanny, wrote, "This is my fanny," and then sat down and started chatting to her mate. And I was like, that looks really cool. And I remember thinking, like, because, you know, I'd done a bit of tagging, a little bit of tagging. My first tag I designed when I was about 10 with my dad, and it was Sub-Zero. And I do like a Z and write sub in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I thought Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat was really cool. But, you know, doing a little bit down somewhere, but actually going and hitting a big spot and writing a tag massive somewhere. Like, I remember feeling too scared, but then after like 13, after the sort of like the thing, I remember being like, the adrenaline of fear.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, like, even with comedy, I stopped doing it for years and then come back to it. Like, I did it 2006 in Manchester, and I was doing the Frog and Bucket and stuff like that, and I was loving it, doing gigs. Did the Edinburgh show 2009. My daughter was born. After that, did bits and bobs. Came over here, started doing bits and bobs in Belfast. Stopped doing it, do a bit more, stopped doing it. You know, like, we'll MC the pub for ages, then we'll stop doing it. I think when I get too comfortable with it and I don't feel the fear.
I was going to say, because you have so many different mediums you're interested in.
Yeah.
Do you sort of like, once you get to the point with like, I'm a wee bit done here, I'm going to move on to that, do more there, and then I'm going to go back into the comedy or back into the writing, and always have a way to move past sort of feeling stagnant in something?
I think so. I think, like, the art is what I always really wanted to do. I always just wanted to draw and paint. I never, bizarrely, just never had the confidence to actually go and put it out there. But the comedy I did for the adrenaline. Like last year I did a skydive and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. During COVID, I took up skateboarding and would go down to bridges, you know, and do the things. And then I broke my wrist. It was like, I can't paint and draw for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I do. I love adrenaline. I love exciting adrenaline things. And I think comedy, like the skydiving or the skateboarding, if there's that kind of buzz to it where I feel a bit...
Well, I had always done the acting and the theatre and comedy and stuff, but I'd done art as well.
Yeah.
And then it was only over lockdown that I started doing the art again, because the comedy was all sort of shut down, do you know what I mean? So it was like the opposite thing.
Yeah.
And I quite like it.
Yeah, I came back after lockdown, so I hadn't been doing any comedy, and then lockdown happened, and then I wanted to do comedy more than anything. And that's where I did... Whose podcast did I do? Well, it wasn't a podcast. It was like those Zoom kind of podcast things you were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Adam and George.
Yeah,
they did.
They did the Pav online.
That's it. That's what I did. I knew I'd done a podcast.
Monday night at the Pavilion at Adam and George's house.
Yeah. And I hated it. I hated doing, not their show. I actually did watch a couple of them do, but I hated the internet during lockdown.
Oh no, it was terrible. Terrible idea.
I just I went off it very, very quickly. I would go on every now and again and be like, oh, that's nice, and blah, blah, blah. And then I'd be just like, I just want to leave the house.
There was a couple of online shows, and the thing was, there was no, you're not getting any feedback.
Yeah.
You're just talking into the screen. And usually drunk.
Yeah.
And you look crazy.
Yeah. Lockdown was a time where you sort of discovered that no one knew if it was tea or red wine, and you could just have anything in that month. Anything. You're on so many Zoom calls where you were just like, we're all just going to ignore the fact that we're clearly drinking booze because people are starting to slur their words in these meetings.
Hello.
I think I'm getting COVID.
Does anyone have any pants on?
No. It's the trousers-free era.
Everyone's just in a shirt, no pants.
Yeah. The first lockdown had the sun, and then the second lockdown, do you remember at Christmas, had the cold and the bitter, and that was a hard one.
I got COVID at the Christmas.
Yeah, me too. Everyone got COVID.
I think everyone got it at the Pav. Someone had gone somewhere, come back and used the microphone, and then every comedian...
Well, weren't we all allowed like a week to go shopping? Wasn't there a massive rush where everyone went out to the shops? And there are people online being all like, don't go to the shops, you'll get COVID. And then you got it. And now occasionally, if you're like, people will ring in to work or they'll say they can't come to your gig or something because they have COVID, and you're like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have the cold.
Yeah, that's it. We're so unforgiving of it now compared to what we were. We're like, do you need me to get you anything? I can leave some shopping at your front door. Yeah. Whereas now it's like, you're such a faker.
We just went so back to being wankers again.
Yeah.
And we're like, immediately, everything's open again. Screw society. Well, Conor McGinley, thank you very much.
Sarah J,
What's the name of the show?
Identity.
Beautiful. I need to change the spelling of that.
Oh yeah, because it's spelt wrong on the, which is good because I'm dyslexic and I will talk about dyslexia. I will talk about,
I have to apologise because I'm dyslexic and I put it up and that's why it's spelt wrong. Hi, I'm Sarah Jane Davidson.
And I'm George Firehorse.
And you can see us at the Accidental Comedy Club that's on once a month, every month in the Accidental Theatre. It is also streamed online if you're too lazy to come down at www.accidentaltheatre.co.uk. That was right? Thank you. That was right, yes?
Yay!
Okay. There might have been more W's.
but there's usually only 3.
What's happening?
Huh?